Today we're continuing on with the theme of answering the questions that Starbreeze has not yet acknowledged with Payday 3. The game is just under 2 months away now. Crazy, I know. And one thing we haven't had the answer to yet is who are the 2 mystery characters that will be available at launch in Payday 3. Alongside Dallas, Chains, Hoxton and Wolf, we know there's going to be 2 characters, but Starbreeze have given us absolutely no information as to who they're going to be. So today I'm going to explore what you guys think and also what I think about the potential of who could be at launch in Payday 3 as playable characters. We're going to start off by looking at a chart that I constructed based on all of your responses on YouTube and Twitter. I put posts out on both of them and a whole heap of you replied that we got nearly 300 replies in the end, so thank you all so much for that. I tallied up every single person's response for their names as to who they want to see come back. I'm going to show you those graphs first, talk about them, give you my opinions, and then also share a few key opinions that I took from those posts that I think are worth discussing in this video. So we're going to start off by looking at the chart, and here is that chart. As I said, I took down every time a name was mentioned as to who people wanted to come back and who people thought would come back in Payday 3. And I've also got it in my OBS so I can actually point to it a bit easier and go, oh, look at this name, look at this name. I'm actually getting better at this kind of thing, who knew? But my pointing is getting better. There we go. Houston at the top with 77 votes. And it works all the way down to H3 with the least amount at 1. Could have been 3 or 4. There were a few people who said it as a joke. I felt like there was only one real response that I ascertained could be completely unironic. So if anyone else was serious, then whatever, sorry. But either way, H3 are not coming back, let's be real. But I also want to just add in a highlight on this chart that looks like this. Because Overkill, Starbreeze, whoever you want to call them, did confirm that Payday 3 would not have any collaborations at launch. They're not going to happen. So any of the collaborations in this list are not going to be in the game at launch, but much like this video in general, I want this to serve as something that stands the test of time and is one that you can look back on as who should come out in Payday 3 post-launch. So as I'm going to say now, before we go back to this chart, I'll hide it for a moment just so you can see my face. Please do comment down below who you want to come back in Payday 3, whether it's at launch or later on, so any crossover characters are back in the action here for this debate. Let me know in the comment section so that if Starbreeze do look at my comment section and use this video as a bit of a gauge as to what the audience wants, your opinion may well play a part here into who else gets added. So do leave those comments down below. But anyway, back to the chart, we can see here, there are a few names here that do surprise me with their placements, one being Sydney, who is definitely one of my favourite characters in Payday 2, but I just didn't think she had as much love as she's had in my audience here, so I really like to see her getting that. I thought that characters like Sydney and Joy were more hated than liked because of their kind of screechy lines, screaming lines, Joy in particular for her gamer stuff. I just think people didn't like them as much, or I thought that, I should say. So maybe I was wrong. Glad to see that. Very, very glad. But I also love that Clover is pretty much the de facto top spot because Houston is a bit of a red herring, a bit of an elephant in the room, because Houston no doubt has this many votes because of 2 things. One, the Dev Diary outtake, where Andreas said Houston by name and made everyone, including me, think that maybe he was coming back. And 2, the devs have been seen wearing Houston merch in their Dev Diaries. So if Houston isn't in the game at launch, he's probably going to come back at some point. So he's almost someone we shouldn't even consider in this because he seems very likely. So realistically, I kind of want to say Clover was a top spot. And I really love that. I've got to be honest with you. I think that's a really cool choice that Clover ended up on the top spot. Most characters here, crossover or not, could easily return in Payday 3's life cycle. The only ones that I think are definitely not going to come back are Rust. He's not going to come back. Ron Perlman did it for the money. He's not going to come back again unless Starbreeze with a big fat check in his face again. Even if they do, a lot of his lines felt very phoned in. I wouldn't personally want to see him come back, much as I like Ron Perlman. H3, not going to happen. Do I need to explain why? No. I personally just don't want YouTubers to be heisters at all. That might be a hot take, and a lot of people are like, add Russian Badger as a heister. I love the dude. I really do. I don't know what his take on this is, but me personally, I think that you should just leave the heisters to voice actors. I think YouTubers as voice cameos would be great, and I'd love to see Russian Badger, Grouse, anyone who's known in the community, like even some of the partners. If they ask me, I'd say yes, but getting content creators to have anything more than a cameo, I think would be a bit excessive. Think of Connor Shaw when they were doing Payday 2 videos. They got a voice cameo in the Diamond Heist, the remake. Something like that I think is fine. Anything beyond that I think personally is pushing it, but that's just me. But beyond that, the only one who definitely won't come back is Scarface. The licensing IP stuff with Payday 2 was a real gut punch, and it seems that there's been no effort to fix that, and I wonder if just across the board there's not really much going on in licensing for Scarface anymore, so I think that was probably a one and done thing for Payday 2, in my opinion personally. But that's everything from the chart. What I want to do now for the middle section of this video is talk to you about my own personal theories on the matter. Who do I think is going to come back? I have 2 personal wants for Payday 3. I want there to be at least 1 female character. I want there to be a woman in there. And I also want there to be 1 new character in there. That's where my head is at currently. Maybe one of each fits my theories, maybe one combines the two and you got a new woman, I don't know, but that's where I want my head to lie right now for who I want to come into the game. Let's talk about why. First off, for the female character. For me personally, if Payday 3 had launched with just the original 4, you wouldn't even have to open the gender debate up. You'd have gone, the original 4 are here, they're the ones that have been in the game since the start, there's no real argument there as to why aren't there any women, it's because they went for the original characters and none of them happen to be girls. Fine. But what Starbreeze have done now at Payday 3 is open the doors immediately. They've said there's 6 characters, and Payday 2 has quite a few female characters, but also a lot of women that play the game and want to see that representation, and that's perfectly valid. I think one thing Payday 2 did nail quite well towards the end was having a good variety of characters. There are obviously some groups that could have had more. I think Chains being the only black Heister, when you think about it, is kind of nuts. I can't really believe he's the only one, so I wouldn't mind seeing a few more black characters in the game. That's just me personally, but the point is, overall, there's a good variety, and I'd kind of like to see Payday 3 reflect that at launch, and there not being any female characters would be a huge misstep in that direction, in my personal opinion. I think that now you've got those 6 characters confirmed, there needs to be at least one woman in there. 2 would be great, I'd love that, but at least one woman would be amazing. I think that would be a really good way to hit the ground running with some good variety in the choices of who you could play as. I think that'd be really, really cool, personally. But as for who it could be, well, let's consult the chart again, because all of the women appear on here. We've got Clover at top spot, then Sydney, then we got Joy, then we got Bonnie, and then we got Healer as part of H3H3. As I've said, H3H3 is not happening, and personally, I think Bonnie, as unfair as it sounds, is probably going to be a write-off, just because, as far as I'm concerned, she's not just underrated. A lot of people just don't really, vibe with her. It's not that people hate her, I don't think. I just think if you rank characters, she ends up coming out at the bottom a lot of the time. Nothing against her performance, I just think that she kind of sinks to the bottom in a pool of very interesting Payday characters or unique characters. That's my opinion, and I know you guys may disagree, and please do in the comment section below. I would love to see some Bonnie love if it's out there. I really would. But for me, the only 3 female characters from Payday 2 that are even in with a chance of getting through, in my opinion, are Sydney, Clover, and Joy. Clover, as you saw in that chart, is the top result, and she's who I put my money on. If I was a betting man, I'd say Clover's the one coming back at launch if there's a female character. Sydney could come back, because as I've found out, she's more popular than I thought, and Joy, while less popular, I don't think she's one of the most well-loved characters in Payday 2. Again, screechy voice lines, gamer things, there's some things people don't like. I personally don't mind her. I think she's got quite an interesting look, so I wouldn't mind her coming back. I just would be surprised if she's the one they choose first, but she has got the lore edge to it. She knows Locke, she had a contact in Galfeng with City of Gold, she is the kind of the younger hacker type character, and if Locke's not present in the game at launch, which currently ain't looking like it, maybe Joy could fill some roles there. So the door's open for her, and I know there's a whole heap of people right now who are really theorizing that Joy's the one coming back. I'm not giving any validity to those theories because I'd rather just find out the information and go from there. It's why I'm not touching on any leaks that are still happening right now. There's a lot of good official information coming through and I'd rather focus on that. But I do think there's something to be said for people who think Joy could come back. I don't think it's impossible. Would be interesting to see one of possibly the less favourable characters come back and maybe get not a redemption arc, but be improved in the eyes of people who didn't really like her as much. That could be cool. But as I've said, where my betting is Clover. She doesn't have very many people who dislike her. She's popular. She's been there since almost the start. And when she came out, Overkill, I'm pretty sure, said on the record, they wanted a female Heister in at the gate from the start anyway. So I really would not mind her being added in Payday 3. I think she's probably a safe bet. Joy's got lore implications. Sydney's got popularity. But Clover, she's a mainstay OG character, nearly as OG as the original 4 in Payday 2. And she's very popular. If I was a betting man, my money would be on her. The second argument, as I said, though, was a new character. I've not got much to say on this other than I don't want Payday 3 to only rely on Payday 2 characters. Payday 2 didn't do that. I mean, obviously, Payday the Heist only had 4 anyway, so anyone who added to Payday 2 was going to be new, fair enough. But I want Payday 3 to have its own unique identity because everything else right now feels like it's stepping up. The setting, the engine, the gunplay, the stealth, everything feels like an improvement in giving Payday 3 its own unique identity. It's got the things you like from Payday 2, but it also feels like a more modern game with new things that modernize it for 2023 versus 2013. And I think one thing you got to do is bring in new characters. I think at least one new character, ideally a New York Heister, would be so good. Someone going, hey, I'm walking here, or I'm heisting here, with a better New York accent than I'm doing, would be brilliant. So that's just where I'm sitting personally. If you combine both my theories and add a new female character, and then you go for a more reliable male one like Houston or Dragan, fine, whatever. But I just want it to be a new character. That's where my head's at. So my personal theory is at least one woman, at least one new. Let me know what you guys think about that, and we'll see what you all think in the comment section and debate it a bit further. I'd be intrigued. The only other thing I'd add on, and I've kind of hinted at it already, is just on the topic of Houston, I want to just acknowledge briefly. I know I was one of the big campaigners thinking from the first dev diary he was going to come back. The merch that Starbreeze are wearing in the dev diaries, as well as him being used in that Easter egg, does still make me think that he's probably going to come back. but maybe he won't be there at launch, or maybe Starbreeze are just trolling. It could be one big case of me when I spread a little misinformation on the internet. I don't know. A few people have pointed out to me that I may have jumped the gun and assumed too much with Houston, and I did say at the time it wasn't confirmed, but maybe we have put our stock in it too much, so it could be that Houston doesn't show up at the start of the game, or maybe he's a contractor and not a Heister at the start of the game, or maybe he comes back later in a free update, or maybe we get like a Houston Breakout. That's a comment we'll get to in a minute that I thought was quite good. Maybe we'll get something like that. Who knows? But speaking of, let's look at some audience comments, because there's some theories from you guys that I really want to talk about. Trutling Gaiden notes that Duke bought a museum in New York City. It literally mentions in Payday 2's Rumors and Stories little cutscene after Offshore Payday that Duke bought a museum in NYC. He's in the area. Whether he's there at launch or later on, it would make sense for Duke to come back, unless for some reason he's not available. I like him. He's suave, he's got a cool sense of fashion, he's a very interesting character, and also one of the better voice performances, I think. Just like his whole air and his whole vibe. Screen Fun Fan starts by talking about why they want Sydney to come back. Very good opinion, but the second paragraph is what draws me in, because they say there could be two real reasons for why a character comes back. Ties that bind, so characters that are very popular in the Payday canon that could just be an easy comeback with very little complaints, but also those who have a good working relationship with Starbreeze. People like Dragan, who plays Dragan, is visiting the Starbreeze offices a lot, he's constantly interacting with social media posts, makes characters like him a lot easier to bring back because it's very easy for Starbreeze to go, by the way, want to be in Payday 3? And they go, yeah. Job done. I'd also like to add this video was recorded before the thing went up yesterday or the day before, whenever I put this video out now, of Dragan, who plays Dragan, doing the whole do time to get time thing, further proving that Dragan does have some connections to Starbreeze and could come back at some time. So I just wanted to put this in here as some context to say that I recorded this video right before that all happened. So, you know, bear in mind, it only further proves that Dragan is a likely choice for the future if he's not there at launch. Now, bear in mind, those two things are not mutually exclusive. For instance, Dragan, who is a very popular character, he could be a ties that bind, but he also has a good relationship with Starbreeze, so they do overlap. They're not mutually exclusive there. So just think it's an interesting way to look at it, that there could be two different reasons why a character comes back, and thought it was cool to mention. Daddy Dallas, very interesting name by the way, has noted that it would be very cool to see Houston come back, especially because he's been there since Payday 2's launch, and at this point is pretty much an original Heister. But they also mentioned what I teased at a minute ago, and this is why I wanted to mention it here, because I really love his idea. A Houston Breakout in Payday 3. I mean, since Houston was kind of in that dev diary, people have been talking about this, the idea of a Houston Breakout, and let me just say it on the record, as a meta thing, I would absolutely love it. I don't know if Starbreeze want to repeat, like, track records there, and personally, a Breakout, I don't think it was the best heist. It was a great level in Payday 2 to play, don't get me wrong, but it's not a heist per se. You're not stealing something, you're breaking someone out of prison. So I don't know if I'd like the idea of there being a whole heist tied around it, but something like that would be really, really cool. I want Payday 3 to focus more on stealing things and not have these heists that are just, you're doing an objective to further a plot. I want it to all be about stealing things. That's what makes the difference to me personally. Hotline Miami is great, but I don't play it because I want to kill the commissar. I play it because you can cook meth, you can steal optional loot, you can get the cocaine in day 2. That's what's interesting to me, and not the commissar outsmarts you again. You know what I mean? I want it to tie more to looting, but you can still easily incorporate a Breakout into stealing stuff, like Election Day Plan C, where you rob a bank at the same time as rigging the votes. You can easily do that, so I'd love to see a Breakout, and that'd be a really cool way, and it would also mean that I'd be fine with Houston not being in the game at launch, because you have this big meta return later on. I'd be up for it. I also want to talk about Square Rabbits quickly, saying that Houston and Dragan are two good choices, Clover's a good pick, but also notes that Bonnie's sadly underrated. And again, just to mention it again, please let me know if you think in the comment section that Bonnie's underrated, because I would be interested to see if maybe I'm just assuming incorrectly there that Bonnie's less popular. I mean, the chart tells me that she didn't do super well, so maybe she's not coming back, maybe she is, who knows, I really don't know. I think she's less likely, but it'd be nice to see some more Bonnie love, because at the minute, I don't see much of it. What's Your Stepdaddy has left a comment saying, I think it's going to be Houston and Dragan because their masks were placed between the original ones in your interviews with the devs. Let me just go on the record right now and apologise for this one, because that was on me. When Andreas and I were sitting down and setting up this whole kind of room, the setup thing to do the interviews, because it wasn't quite laid out the way it was when I got in there, we set it up for him and Dalmir at the same time. We basically decided how to put the masks behind us, because they were in a completely different arrangement, and I said to him, I was like, should we do anything with the masks? He went, why don't we rearrange them and we pick who we want? And I was like, yeah. So I picked Houston and Dragan because they were names that people were talking about a lot as people who could come back, and also we filmed those interviews after Dev Diary 1 had come out, so Houston was a hot topic. It was done purely to be a bit of a, we do a little trolling moment, so please don't take stock in it. I apologise if that's led you in the wrong direction. But you never know. I picked them with good faith that they may return, so maybe I'll predict something. Pog Nuggets gives us some very good reasons for and against Houston coming back, saying that Houston could be very likely, as if the gang has had an attack on their lives, Dallas would have contacted his brother straight away. On the other side of the coin, if Houston is killed, that would create some major problems with Dallas and give him a solid reason to come back in and fight whoever's the one who's drawn them back into life of crime to begin with. The kind of implication right now is that some members of the Payday gang are unaccounted for because an attempt's been made on their lives, so I wonder what they're going to do when running with that. I'd be quite intrigued to see if they do kill off a character like that to draw people back in. It would work, it would make sense. TV shows do that sometimes to add stakes, or movies do that. You kill a character that you like to make you feel more invested in the story and draw people back in. Not impossible they could do that with Houston, but either direction there I like. There's some good lore implications either way there. Elena says that they think it's definitely going to be Houston, but also want to see Sydney come back. Very good. But also note that the mask being given out in the Collector's Edition is definitely the other Heister. Now, this fascinates me purely because if you look at the Collector's Edition, which I have right here, one thing I didn't really like about this, and I said it at the time last month, was that I don't think they picked an iconic enough mask to sell this thing. It's £120, like what, $150-ish? I don't think the mask was a very good choice personally, because it's not one that we know. It's something new to Payday 3. What if it's the mask of a new character? That would give it a bit more logic and help it make a bit more sense. So maybe, just maybe, that's why they chose that mask. Interesting theory, and I'm not entirely against it. So very, very interesting point, Elena. I back it. It could well be that that's the reason that's the mask in the Collector's Edition, and it backs my theory that we're going to get at least one new character. Another one that I really wanted to focus on was Gano's comment here, saying that seeing as both Houston and Dragan were present in the April Fool's video, that it's possible their voice actors could also be brought back for some type of role in Payday 3, either as heisters or contractors. Grouse has said this several times in the record, I'm not sure if Badger has, but those voice actors were not chosen by Starbreeze. They weren't offered to them and said, here's who you've got, make us a video for the Payday 2 cards. They were who Grouse and Badger asked for. They said, we want these guys, and Starbreeze went, okay, here they are. It's not necessarily that they're readily available because they're in Payday 3, they were just the people that Grouse and Badger wanted in the video. So even though there could be an overlap and there could be a coincidence that maybe Dragan's in there and then he shows up in Payday 3, it's not evidence. Don't use that as evidence to back the claim because there is no real link there. It's a nice thought, but unfortunately that's not how it worked out. So anyone who is taking stock in that, don't, because it could be a coincidence, but there's nothing logic there to rely your theories on. The second to last comment comes from Neon the Wolf, who said that Houston is definitely one of them because it makes sense story-wise, and also the way the devs have been seen wearing Houston merch in their dev diaries, etc. As I've said, it does play well to the theory that Houston will come back. As for second character, I think it may be a brand new character, possibly links to Shade. Again, an interesting theory that we mix someone that people really want and someone who's new. Just interesting to see someone else say that in a slightly different way. But we're going to finish off with one comment from Shadow King, and I thought this was quite funny, so it's a good way to end the video, because they want Dragan back, purely because of the my boner press the button, not me, page line. And I literally applied to it at the time, you can see why I hearted it. That is the best response that I had on either Twitter or YouTube. Nothing's going to beat that. It was brilliant, because that is one of the funniest lines that has ever been spoken in Payday 2. But either way, that's my opinions on who I think will come back in Payday 3. And as I've said, I want this video to stand the test of time, not just who's going to be the first two characters, but who's likely to come back later down the line. So as I've said, let me know in the comment section below who you want to see in Payday 3, collaboration or not. I really appreciate talking about these new topics, or talking about things, I should say, that haven't had much confirmation from Starbreeze. It's nice to kind of get my theories out there and know what you guys think. And I suppose I should also mention, if you want to hear me talk about these topics in more depth, go and follow me over at twitch.tv/RedArcherLive. I have talked about this matter in extensive detail on my streams, and it's what gave me the idea to make this video to begin with. So if you ever want to hear me talk more about Payday stuff, or ask me questions about anything Payday related, go check out a stream, drop a follow, say hi, I'd really appreciate it. But apart from that, I'll leave it all there. Thank you all very much for watching. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new and you want to check out more Payday 3 content. But until then, my name is RedArcherLive. Thank you all for watching, look after yourselves, and I'll see you all soon.